And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we're going to give you a recap over the weekend. There was an assassination attempt on President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And we have a special guest today in our studio. We have Dr. Pamela Denise Long, who is running for the United States Senator position to get rid of that rotten Dick Durbin. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. And I'm your host, Pastor David. So come on in. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And first, let me give all praises to Yahuwah and Yahusha. That's God in Christ in Hebrew. Well, folks, the madness never seems to end. To the American people and patriots across this country, over the weekend, there was another assassination attempt on President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and he wasn't even there. And we're going to get to that story. But I want to talk a little bit about, and the tariffs, we're going to talk about that. But I want to move forward to the state of Illinois. See, what has happened in the state of Illinois, like California and all the other blue states, is they did redistricting, and they took over and cheated when they created the new map. Thus, they have a supermajority for the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois. But to Illinoisans, look at the state. Look at our state. Look at how the politicians from all the Democratic Party people, they sit around and have completely been complicit to the Illinois taxpayer. And the reason why I'm saying that is it is time for the people of the state of Illinois to make some good choices during this midterm election. Now, we know as an organization with our organization, Living and Driving While Black, we did some studies in the last midterms, and we were able, in conjunction with the Heritage Foundation, we're able to watch the polls and investigate them, and we came up with all sorts of infractions. Judges who were Democrats were acting as Republicans, holding ballots, waiting for the person to leave and then put their ballots through after they told them the machine was down. The printers, the flash drives. We found all of those, and we reported that before the midterms election, and we were able to stop a lot of fraud in Chicago. But because of the fact now the American people and patriots across this country know that the election process has been skewed and rigged, not only by the Democratic Party, but their affiliates like the Dominion machines, all of it is all crooked. And so I'm pleased today to have a young lady who has been on the forefront of ensuring Illinoisans that as a U.S. senator, that she will be able to make some changes. And I'm going to bring my team in today. Hey, Doc, how you doing? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. Glad to be here.
Great. I got the other doctor, and I got doctors in the house today. And the Queen, Lucretia, and I got Randy. What's up, Randy? Can you hear us?
Randy.
You there, Randy? There you is twice.
Hey.
Sometimes that happens with StreamYard. It gets kind of sketchy.
Really?
When you're on your phone. Yeah, it'll come in twice. I've been there. But technology is what it is.
Zoom.
You good, Randy? Okay, good.
I can hear y'all a little bit coming in choppy. I'm gonna drop out and come back in.
Okay, good. Do
Okay.
what you got to do. To the American people and patriots across this country, I want to introduce Dr. Pamela Denise Long. She's running for the United States Senator position in Illinois, and it is a fresh breath air to have somebody that's not a part of the same type of political rhetoric that we've seen over the years. Dr. Long, talk a little bit about your run for the U.S. Senator seat, and I'm going to bring up I got your palm card, and we can talk about it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I am from Edwardsville, so I'm a downstater, though I've lived in Chicago. I went to Circle campus, and then I moved back to Bronzeville as an adult. And I also spent 5 years from age 8 to 14 living in Kankakee, Illinois. So, Illinois has been home to me as an adult since 1991, although I've lived in New York and Texas and all of that. I'm running for U.S. Senate after a 30-year career in healthcare, pre-K through 12, education, academia, where I taught at the College of Education at Southern Illinois University here in Edwardsville, and in other adjunct faculty programs. And my doctorate is in organizational development. I'm running because I shudder to think of what our grandchildren and their grandchildren will inherit as a nation. Our nation doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't prioritize the American people. We're throwing money all over the place, foreign and domestic. Fraud, waste, and abuse is absolutely out of control. Men are kickboxing women just because he says he's a woman. And they're doing a lot of this nonsense DEI stuff under the guise of the legacy Black American experience. So I'm a 7th generation American, and that has to change. There are other policies that I'm running on in terms of cutting health insurance costs. We need to redesign how that works. I've been a proponent of eliminating the income tax, which means we need to redesign how we fund government. We didn't always have an income tax, so how are we making it happen in the past? We need accountability for mass immigration, both legal and illegal, and how Joe Biden, his administration, and the governors of Illinois and other sanctuary states just let people flow into the nation. We don't know those people's real ages. We don't know who they really are. We don't know their criminal background. And we have people driving on our roads today, essentially murdering Americans. It's crazy. And I'm looking to bring some courage and competence. That's another thing. We have elected officials who are not standing on what's right. And if you're not willing to take the arrows for the principles that are right for the American people, then you don't deserve the position. So like you say, I'm not backed by anyone except grassroots. And I'm looking for people to come out who say they want real leadership, who say they want a senator who isn't owned, unbought, and unbossed, I believe is how we say that. Then that would be me.
Your thoughts, Krisha?
Oh no, I was introduced to Dr. Long through Daryl Brooks, and after that, I didn't get to talk to her. I just talked to Daryl, and then I talked to her. And as I'm talking to her, me being me, all the organizations that I'm a part of, I said she will be a shoe-in and a fit because I am grassroots. So, this is a big deal in Illinois, especially because senators are 2 people. And she's running on a ticket. And no offense, she's a strong Black woman. Okay, Shaka Khan and all the rest of them wrote that song for her. So I opened up my book and I said, who can I get her in contact with? Because we're going to try to get her the best leg up, knowing what she got to battle in Illinois. So I'm praying that she completed the survey for the NRA so she can get graded. That she's been endorsed by the Veterans for America First. And I'm getting ready to open up a couple more so we can get her endorsements from the grassroots side of it all.
Good.
Doc, you want to get in there? Go on. I got the doctors in the house today, boy. I love it.
Just a little bit. Yes. Pamela Denise Long, we actually met sometime last year, and I got to drive her to the airport, and it was kind of funny because I was like, I love serving people because you get to know them a little bit better. So I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to hang out with her a little bit, take her to the airport. But I did have a quick question for you. Now, the Democrats are planning basically a walkout similar to the CBC in 1971, but unlike the CBC in 1971, where they actually had a platform, right? I want to say they actually were doing their boycott of the president's State of the Union address based on measures that they wanted to see happen, which was kind of hilarious because a lot of the measures had already happened by the time they did the walkout. So I think it was a lot of pomp and circumstance, and we're here again. Right. And now they're planning like this whole thing with Joy Reid walking out. If you were to be a senator, how would you kind of like want to address those that are, in my opinion, being disrespectful? You can disagree, you can be disagreeable, but you can be respectful about it, right? Because you're representing not just your state, but everybody when you're in that kind of position. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
No, I appreciate that and the historical context. And you're so right. So much of the resistance to the president is just that. It's resistance. It's performance. We've long gone are the days, it seems, where elected officials actually meet and talk with each other about the things that they have in common and how to solve the most pressing problem at the moment by coming together. Our nation's incredibly divided. And the people who are in leadership right now are doing little to nothing to actually resolve that divide, to bridge that divide. And they seem to be digging a bigger trench for us all. So for me, I plan to meet with all 534 other offices and their staff to get to know them and what the pressing problems are for their constituents and the ways in which we can work together to resolve those problems. I have an ad running on TV here in Chicagoland, including the collar counties, that acknowledges that every ad they're seeing from the Democrats is about Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump will be president for another 2 years. So what you going to do the other 4 years of your 6-year U.S. Senate term, right? And so if anti-Trump is all you got, that tells me you don't have much to offer the people. You're just trying to be not him, right? And you're focused on emotions, which is some of the reasons that he's been so targeted for violence, is because people aren't willing to actually have a conversation about resolving problems and solution making.
But guys, this is what I find the most asinine thing about how politics has become. A Democrat, a Republican, your main sole purpose is to go to Washington because you were sent there by the people. I find it how ridiculous that both sides are sitting here fighting each other, saying, well, I hate Trump, well, I hate this one, but I hate Jeffries, I hate this one. And at the same time, the American people are suffering. Now, when you look at the country from 4 years ago, and to the American people and patriots across this country, especially Illinoisans, look at the difference in the shift, in the change. President Trump has brought back respectability. He's gotten rid of the fraud, but what he's found, I mean, the direction that he got this country going in right now, and we seem to be rebounding from the Joe Biden, the open borders, the transgender world, the attack on the American family, the destruction of homosexuality in our schools. Dr. Long, talk a little bit about how you would deal with some of those things in Illinois. And believe me, you got me 100%. You said some things that put me back into the box, because you and I met with a short that we did with Andre Barnes, who's with Numbers USA. But yeah. I'm hearing you, and I'm relating with you because this is common sense politics. And that's what the American people need to hear. Somebody that has a plan, that can implement it and get it done. Talk a little bit about how you're going to handle some of the economic stuff in Illinois and how to deal with the problems that we're having right now.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, from the social perspective, a lot of what the president's been able to do has been through executive orders. So the next person who gets in can rescind all of that. So there are ways that Congress needs to act to codify much of what's been done, from the DOGE efficiencies to the gender ideology and protecting women and girls and protecting people with mental health concerns from mutilation and a whole medical industrial complex that's grown up around gender dysphoria. From the economic side, here in Illinois, we superseded New Jersey in 2025 to become the state with the highest property taxes here. We are bleeding residents. People are fleeing from Illinois, both from the criminal justice perspective, but also from the cost of living and taxation perspective. There are 33 3 counties that want to find another place to be, right? They were willing to go to Indiana, they're willing to become part of Iowa, looking for a home, and we just can't have that. So one of the things that I've talked about is the burden that the pension system here in Illinois has placed on property taxes, right? So as businesses flee, the people, right, individual families, the struggling middle class ends up bearing the burden of those pension liabilities. And while we can't take from people what we've already promised, we can revisit the ways in which we're investing that money. So what I can offer is, as a U.S. Senator, some of the federal infrastructure around technical assistance to look at money management strategy, not from a punitive perspective, but from a technical assistance and help perspective, to do efficiencies and effectiveness, to find waste, fraud, and abuse so that we can direct that money toward investing in the people. We have amazing infrastructure here in Illinois. You know, Chicago, you know, all rail leads to Chicago. It is one hub for movement of people and products. So we need to maximize our potential there by making sure that we continue to invest in addressing the congestion that happens to slow that down. We have great biofuel infrastructure here, great research and development infrastructure to spur the economy through our universities and the like. So I want to make sure that we're maximizing our potential here in Illinois and not placing too much of a burden on the American people. And we have to address criminal justice. So can we address the way that some parts of the Safety Act were good intended, right? So there are people who get hemmed up in Chicago in particular, right? And other places of the state as well. But Chicago has a history with John Burge and what he and his thugs.
Yes, I know.
Okay, that's real. So we have to acknowledge the way the criminal justice system itself has been criminal at times. But what we can't do is allow people who have 30 prior arrests, including violence, to just go out in the name of equity and send them back in the streets. So there has to be some balance. And it seems like Democrats have good intentions, but the impact is a little crazy and negative.
And you're being so generous when you say they have good intentions. Doc, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I did another question. Now, this also goes back to Nixon. Now, he did, under his administration, it was Executive Order 11458. And like you said, when somebody else comes in office, if you do not codify this into law, it goes away. It was the Office of Minority Businesses and Enterprise. Okay. So it went from 13 million in 1969 to about 142 million by 1971. And those were actually Black owned businesses. Now, what we don't hear a lot from the Democrats is actual freedom from government, right? And actually starting businesses that will create that generational wealth. Now, I know you're not mayor, you're not the governor, but as a senator, can you really look at really common sense executive orders, right? That could actually help in areas like, I'm just saying, Black owned businesses, because right now there are other communities that siphon off of the Black community, while at the same time people are telling the Black community, why don't you have wealth? Why did you stand up? Well, move all the regulations out of the way, take out the barriers, and I got to have $10 million in the bank to start a business so I can move forward. But what are some things you can do as a senator to actually bring some of that legislation forth and maybe actually rebirth an executive order that could have been codified into law?
No, love. So this ties back to Pastor Lowry's question about economic development. First of all, I'm an advocate for lineage-based and historically and originalism in historical context for executive orders and legislative action. So John F. Kennedy had it right in 1960 when he put forth the executive order about taking affirmative action to make sure that people aren't discriminated on the basis of race. And the reason for that was what legacy Black Americans, as I call it, FBA, ADOS, I'm talking about us, right? Friedman, all the things, that's us that I'm talking about, that we basically receive the full citizenship that we have been denied for so very long, right? That stuff wasn't hundreds of years ago. The last civil rights legislation was signed in 1968. That's 5 years before I was born, right? And so my youngest sibling was born that year. So our children are the first generation in my family to actually not have some type of legalized discrimination against them. That's not being a victim, that's historical reality. And the nation has the existing executive orders and legislation to make it right. So what I would push for is an EO and or other resolution from Congress to acknowledge the original intent of those things, original intent of affirmative action, which the Supreme Court, the conservative justices of the Supreme Court acknowledge that legacy Black Americans are entitled to affirmative action because of the historical harms that we've experienced, not because of race. So I want to make sure that gets codified and acted upon. I want to see a lineage-based investment, which is where I'm suggesting that those minority funds that were set aside for Black Americans and in large measure, legacy Black Americans, and that we return to that we redirect half of that spending toward the people it was originally intended for. And over time, we can pull up to 40 Black Americans out of poverty and save $24 trillion in about 40 to 50 years if we use a seed capital approach. So that's making sure your money is invested in investment vehicles like baby bonds for the next generation, restructuring your debt, making sure that the survivors of Jim Crow actually get a boost in the Social Security that they experience and other things like that, so that we can eventually cut off this. I mean, it's really an open chest for people who can fly over here and consider themselves minorities. And anyone's a minority if they're not a straight white Christian male. You ain't have to put no equity in the nation, ain't have to have fought for it. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking to see happen.
Krisha?
Okay, thank you.
Me, I have two of them. Okay, with the Chicago Bears leaving Illinois, that is, I was sitting here typing it in, that generated $629 million from the community. And right now, they're gone. That's going to take away businesses. That's going to take away opportunities. And it's just going to leave a wide gap, especially right there on that property in that structure. What are you planning on doing with that, or courting some other, I say a hockey team, I don't know, to come back in there, to use the building, to not tear it down, renovate it, to make it a special training? Are you looking at that? And then also, with it being a sanctuary state, not just sanctuary city, but with a sanctuary state, and the President of the United States said he is going to start going after the sanctuary states by pulling back funds from the federal government. How can you help the citizens of Illinois to get their fair share from the government, to make sure all of the social networks and the programs and for the citizens, that they get it and not illegals?
Oh, okay. So look, if I forget something, let me know.
Right.
Okay, it's good stuff. Let's start with the last one first. I have been a proponent of defunding sanctuary cities and sanctuary states for a very long time. I don't think I'd heard anyone else say it when I was advocating for it. We cannot have state or local governments that have basically said they're not only are they not going to help implement federal law enforcement, but they're going to obstruct. So that's a big difference. Yes. You can say that you're not going to have your taxpayers pay for federal law enforcement, right, by paying their overtime and all that kind of stuff. But for you to actually obstruct it is a whole nother level of, I would even say, felony. And to have people hiding illegal aliens who have broken our laws coming into the nation. And it is a crime to cross the border illegally. It's not a crime to overstay your visa to be here illegally, but it is a crime to cross the border. So supporting and harboring and abetting illegal aliens is a crime, and we have to hold people accountable for that. So I support sanctuary city defunding. The discretionary spending. As a matter of fact, I got myself in trouble because I was at a debate at the University of Chicago, where I basically said this same thing to a bunch of, essentially brown faces, students and the like in front of me. But we can't have this situation. And I was asked about it on CBS Chicago morning show, like, won't that harm the state of Illinois? And I said, these are choices that the governor and the mayor are making to be sanctuaries. Chicago is a home rule city. It did not have to accept illegal aliens, right? The state of Illinois can repeal that if they want to, right? That idea that the law enforcement here won't help. So these are choices. And if people don't like the idea of being defunded, then they need to vote in a mayor and a governor who won't support sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, because it's going to happen. The other thing that you mentioned about the social safety net, yes, when that happens and it becomes illegal, it also becomes illegal, as I would write it, to actually give any federal funding to an entity that provides funding to illegal aliens. So the way that they're doing essentially money laundering by giving it to an NGO, and then the NGO goes and gives it, all of that becomes punishable. And we need to make sure that the DOJ has a special unit to address that crime. The other element you ask about in terms of the Chicago Bears becoming the Indiana Bears or Gary Bears or whatever is like
the bad news
It
Bears.
doesn't even sound right.
It doesn't, man. It doesn't.
It just don't roll off the tongue like that. So I don't know how the businessman of our governor lost this. And Brandon, I just, Lord have mercy. And so the idea that the Bears were willing to build their own stadium on their own dime, but even that didn't happen. So here's what I think. I think the lease actually ends in 31, right? Do they have until 2031?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that decision's going to be made sooner than later. So what I don't want is for the Illinoisans to be strapped with, I don't want them to be underwater in the deal, but we can't lose the millions, like you're saying, hundreds of millions. So we need a real businessman to negotiate that. I know the president isn't particularly married to Illinois about it, but maybe he doesn't even like the sound of the Gary Bears or the Bad News Bears or whatever, and he'll come in and do something. I know there are governors who are talking about stepping in, candidates who are stepping in right now to try to negotiate that, who are stronger businessmen who are trying to make it happen. From the federal level, I don't know how much as a senator I can interfere with interstate commerce between a private entity and different states who are basically competing for business. What we truly need, Ms. Lucretia, is a leader in the state of Illinois who will step up to the plate, who knows how to get negotiations done, be it the governor or a new mayor, to make sure that we keep our Chicago Bears within the Chicago region.
Well, I want to let you know, Ms. Long.
I have another concern for you, because known for corruption, known for mafia, known for drug dealers, gang bangers, if you name it, cartel. Are you kind of setting yourself up with security and everything else? Because we know historically, Black conservatives, Black Republicans in the state of Illinois is like a no-go. And normally most of them have had life-threatening threats, phone calls that is just absurd, or just, somebody coming up and yelling at you. Have you had to deal with any of that yet? And has the full armor of God been perpetrated on you, and you have put on your shield of righteousness?
No and yes. So I have people praying for me who've been praying for me all across the state, lifting me up in prayer, texting me about prayer from the moment that I launched my campaign in May. And I appreciate all of it. So yes, all the prayers, please continue. I have not had the negative experiences that you've mentioned. I have had one person attack me online. And he's a white guy out of Southern Illinois who took my flyer and put a red X over my face. And I had people in leadership positions call him out because of the way that looks and understanding racial politics in Illinois or in the country, and how that can activate things, right? And called him out on that. He, of course, didn't back down because whatever. And he was particularly activated about my belief in the fact that people who've been injured should, of course, be redressed, that we have a First Amendment right to air grievance with government and to seek redress for those grievances, including non-repetition. And so I have been very fortunate, and I'm knocking on wood, that I haven't had any untoward incidents, and that people in my circle don't have to throw somebody a birthday party that they'll never forget.
Well, let me say this. First of all, when you're doing righteous work, you don't have to worry, because God is going to allow you to continue to do that righteous work. So you can't have fear when you know that God says that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And those who do righteous work have the armor of God all around them. And secondly, in 2027, I'm going to be the new mayor of Chicago. Let's cut the chase with the foolishness. The people of Chicago know that we've had mayors that destroyed our city. Lori Lightfoot, Rahm Emanuel. Now we got Brandon Johnson. But it was all done by design. And so to Chicagoans, when Pastor become the mayor, we're going to get rid of all of this foolishness. So the Bears will stay because I make those economic decisions as far as tax breaks, how the city can use the Bears to be able to create more economic opportunities and employment for the citizens. So we'll get Chicago to stay, but I'm hoping that this is just some maneuvering that the Bears are making to be able to get the deal that they want from the city. But that's what happens when you elect uneducated politicians that do not understand economics, nor do they have the mindset to ensure that they're not working for themselves but the people. So in 2027, I'll be the mayor of Chicago, and you will win this senator seat, and we will be able to work together with the new governor, somebody else besides J.B. Pritzker, because Black people, if we already see, especially across the country, we can see that the present day leadership has not been good for the people. You can't expect anything to change going down the road with the same people or different people with the same attitude that it pays to be a corrupt politician. So we are going to have to make a transition from politicians that don't do anything right to politicians like Ms. Long, who's well educated, who understands, who bring a wealth of knowledge to the table to assist the taxpayers, like myself, like Doc, like Lucretia. We're all in positions to be able to make a difference in the Black community and communities across the country. But we have to stand behind us. We cannot sit back and say, hey, you know what, let them do this thing. You have to contribute. The United States taxpayers now have to really do their research. They have to look and they have to choose what the candidates are saying and research and find out if they're capable of able to do it. We can't just pull the leather because you're a Democrat or Republican. We have to seek educated candidates, first of all, that are God-fearing, and secondly, they have to have a plan. And that's what I'm seeing from Ms. Long. She has a good plan, and I can support that. Guys, I'm gonna put your poster up again. I want you to talk a little bit about some of the things that are on there, Ms. Long.
Yeah, and then I'll talk about something you said reminded me that we need to talk about what it's like to vote in a primary election. So what you're seeing here is a graphic of my lineage-based investment program, right? I have a whole bunch of other policies that are put forth, and we'll talk about the veterans one too. But what's on your screen right now is a graphic of my proposal of how it will work to redirect $4.1 billion annually from wasteful minority spending, right? We shouldn't be funding a Chinese person who just flew over here yesterday, an Indian person who flew over here yesterday, and have them competing with legacy Black Americans for minority spending. That's just wrong. So we spend $8.2 billion annually on minority spending. I'm suggesting that we redirect half of that, so $4.1 billion toward legacy Black Americans. And on your left, you'll see that I'm suggesting we include Black-owned business development, real estate development, making sure that we have housing grants available, that we restructure debt and have jobs training, right? We have a lot of STEM workers. We're going to get into remanufacturing. We have a lot of AI that we're developing. Instead of developing foreigners and offshoring our jobs over there, let's bring those things home and develop our own people. And then, of course, the baby bonds to invest in investment vehicles for the next generation. And what you see with the pillars at the bottom or in the center is the impacts of that. So with these different programs, and there are more than just the 4 you see here, but with these different programs, you can see within 5 years through the seed capital approach to minority spending for legacy Black Americans, we can $400 billion and pull 4 million Black Americans out of poverty in 5 years. In 20 years, we could save $7.2 trillion because people will be less dependent on the social safety net. Healthcare costs, the cost of poverty will be significantly decreased. We could pull 18 million Black Americans out of poverty. And then within 40 to 50 years, we could have saved $24 trillion, which is basically the cost of reparations, as economists have estimated. $24 trillion saved and pull 30 million Black Americans out of poverty. And so what we would see there is you would have ownership rather than government dependency, right? People who are trained, their businesses are growing. You would have reduced waste because the money is going is supposed to be going to, right? And then you just have stronger families and stronger communities because there's a solid economic base from which people could launch. And so this is my address to what Black Americans have said is their number one policy issue. It's tangibles, as you may recall, that we got dragged by the immigrant community for debate. And it also addresses the wealth gap that those of us who are legacy Black Americans have, just because, again, Jim Crow ended in 68. On paper, it ended in 68, but everybody didn't start to act right just because they signed something. So this is designed to say to Black Americans, I see you. It's designed to address the waste, fraud, and abuse. It's designed to prevent people from coming over here and latching on to what the nation saw fit to do for legacy Black Americans because of the historical harm. And it honors what the conservative justices even said with their ruling on affirmative action in 2023. So with this, I would propose this to Congress. There are portions of in a bill. There are portions of this that the president could do in an executive order himself. That would address it. And so we could close out the historical and not even historical, like as of yesterday, sort of harms that have happened. We could save significant money and we could boost our economy, because what we know is when people get these extra boosts in income, they typically spend it on necessary things. I'm talking about people who really need it.
Yes.
Right. And so I think it's something that 8 out of 10 Republicans that I talk to, conservatives that I talk to about the program, absolutely agree with it and support it because it makes moral sense and it makes economic sense.
Right. Right. Instead of giving people fish, you teach
them how to fish.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, that's the whole thing with our community is that, and we talk about it on the show all the time, how the Black community could become self-sufficient. But what you've laid out is an excellent plan because, see, Black people spend trillions of dollars each year and we don't see any of the money, nor does it reflect in our community. And that's what you have. You have a plan there that over a period of 5, 10, 20 years, the Black community can reinvest in itself and continue to thrive in that manner. And I like the Black ownership. That's one thing that everybody does it in their own community. You know, and I have people say, well, Pastor, when you say Black people should separate from us, what do you mean? Because we're all Americans. And that's true. We all are Americans. But when I mean separate, the Black community needs to have its own economic engine. Because now everybody coming to our community and they get rich. They come in, they set up shop overnight. They open businesses overnight. They haven't invested one penny, and yet the legacy Black people that have been here, like you said, Doc, got to jump through hoops and all of that. So when we pull our own money and start investing it back into ourselves, then we can create our own economic engine and have our own stores and have our own schools. That's what every other ethnic group does.
Now, I'm going to throw cold water in the whole situation. We got 1.98 trillion in already spending that we spent. And I'm just pulled this up myself. It is projected by the end of 2020. Well, it was last year, 2025. Black community spent $1.98 trillion. But here's the thing, Pastor, and this is not a misnomer. We don't spend it on ourselves. We hate ourselves. Black people is not going to support another Black-owned business, not without a discount or some freebies, or because you think you're better than the rest of us because you got your stuff together. So we know for a fact that our money don't stay in our community because there's too much enviness outside of our community that we can never jump up and jump out.
So here's what I would say to that. Definitely the money doesn't bounce in the community like it did prior to desegregation, right? Where all we had was us. So my plan isn't even saying only sell to Black people. If you have a business like my service, when I do strategic planning and organizational development consulting, most of my folks are white, right? For real. So like sell to who you sell, money's green. So in value is what it is, right? But the idea is to make sure that the people have the resources that they've been both denied, but also that was designed to develop them so you can sell to anybody. And that's what other people do, right? They don't necessarily just sell in their community. They come to where there's a need for their service, a gas station, a bodega, whatever, because there's not a grocery store there and they sell there. The other thing that I want to say with that is none of this is designed to what is it people say, eliminate white supremacy and all that. This is an economic thing.
Exactly.
Right? This is about waste, fraud, and abuse. It's about the misappropriation of funds where we've given these funds for generations to people who weren't legitimately entitled to them. We weren't supposed to be funding foreigners who just fly over here with the minority spending. So it's making sure people have the education, have the resources, the tools that they need. The other part of this is it would include, like what you were asking about, Dr. Nichols, a realignment to originalism for the Minority Business Development Agency and all of its predecessor organizations, which were historically led by Black people and directed toward Black folks. It would also include a relaunch of the Freedmen's Bureau so that it would be the Doge, essentially, within government entity that's making sure that who's getting in is vetted, their lineage is verified. It would also include a repurposing, because Donald Trump did this. He rechartered the Freedmen's Bank and gave it to these people who was turning Black Americans, freedmen, away at the door. It would include basically originalism, a return to originalism. And here's the other thing. I want to make sure that this has a timeline on it that's reasonable to get it done, because we've been lingering for a while now. So if we take a whole of government approach to getting this done, right, to making sure that these resources are directed, that the wealth is developing, we can close this out in 50 to 75 years. And I know that sounds like a long time, but it's really not. And be done with it, because people will linger and take forever to do it. Look, you got your lifetime to make sure that your wealth gap is closed, and you take all the resources that are offered to you so that you make it happen. And I would like to eventually sunset minority spending and close it out altogether.
Right.
Dr.
Right.
Well, it's Dr. Ben Carson. He is the co-founder, Dr. Ben Carson, who's getting ready to get the biggest honor and highest honor in civilian history, I guess, a medal of freedom from President Trump on the State of the Union. But the Old Glory Bank, that's the name of it, what they had set up, President Donald Trump and Dr. Ben Carson, they set up, they help minority businesses. It is Old Glory Bank.
I love that. Well, yeah. And the Freedmen's Bank, right, that they sabotaged from the onset needs to be rechartered. Currently, they are talking about focusing on illegal aliens at the Freedmen's Bank. Like, make sense to me.
Yeah, those things are happening. Now, not to shift the whole conversation, but I did want to ask you about something that's trending in the United States, and it's called MAID, and it's medical assistance in dying. It's something that's been happening in Canada. They've legalized it, but there are states that are here in our country that have legalized this. There's 12 of them, and Illinois is one of the newest states in 2026 to want to introduce this type of procedure.
Dr. Gagorkian.
Yeah,
basically Dr. Gagorkian. It's a Gagorkian situation, but the harm that it could do is because it could
Yes.
be misrepresented,
Yes.
right? And for
Mhm.
you, and I'm just now want morals. You know,
Mm.
if I'm saying, hey, it's okay for somebody to commit suicide, then I'm okay murdering them, right? I'm a
Mm.
party to it, even though I haven't signed off on the legislation. Now, again, this is a state issue, just like
Mm.
abortion. They kicked
Mm.
it back down to the states and said, okay, states, which ones of you want this? Which ones of you don't? Again, this is a moral issue. As a senator, right? Because I'm speaking life to where you're going to be at.
That's right.
Can you actually say, okay, this is something that we have to look at on the federal level and say, no, you can't just commit suicide? Because see, here's the thing with Kevorkian, he was able to get around it because it was self-induced.
Yes.
Now they've taken it that way where it's medical assistance in dying, but you're doing it to yourself. They've actually had it so where people are present in the room, down to children, watching people
Yes.
literally drown and suffocate themselves to death. Oh yeah, this is happening. It is disgusting. And like I said, it is now in Illinois. This is the 12th state that
Yeah,
it's in. So I know it's a weird question, but it is something that I do want to ask you because
And
none of
also,
the other senators are really talking about this.
and Illinois was the very first. It was a politician, I'm trying to remember, that actually brought that up, especially after the old governor of Virginia said that we'll birth the baby. Don't worry about it, but we're gonna sit it
Oh
in a
yeah,
corner and decide what to
that
do
guy.
with it. And
Keep it
then it was
comfortable.
another politician from Illinois said, hey, we could take that further. Let's have a conversation all the way up to the age of 2.
Yes.
That's murder.
Yeah.
Wow. The idea, I'm sorry, I'm plugging in my computer. The idea of having children present while someone
Kill themselves.
I'm
drowns
telling you,
themselves,
it's happening.
that's
Yeah.
Well, what is happening here in Illinois is that it has become the new California. It has become the transgender, homosexuals, pedophiles, child rapists. All of those things have embedded in Illinois, and satanicism, and they've tried to legalize it and make it normal as to where, well, they used to have prayer in school, but now we got all these other things, so prayer don't count anymore. How would you? And I know some people who are trying to get prayer back in schools. What are some of the things as the senator that you could do in order to help along that process to return, religion, prayer back to school? Because with all the other evil entities in the school that our children are seeing, I feel that prayer would create some type of relationship with the great I am, and our children have some type of spiritual base. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so two things. One, I want to address your question, and I want to address Dr. Nichols' question. We have to make sure that children who are of faith have the freedom to practice, just like those who are of a different faith or have no religious belief have the freedom to practice that as well, right? So the idea that children who are Christian should be shamed or bullied or have to go into a corner in order for them to pray and to meet on campus and stuff like that, just that can't happen because it is an encroachment upon their freedom of religion. So the idea that we have to accommodate the folks who don't have religion is a problem for me. And the idea that, I think I was talking to one of my friends who's also running for office, and he was talking about why we don't serve pork. And I have to fact check this in school lunches is because of the Muslim population. So it's like, so for the people who do eat pork, they can't eat it because the kids who don't eat it are the minority. And so we're just overly accommodating, I think,
yes,
is when it comes to circumscribing Christianity's practice in accommodating people who are not. It's like when I was doing my dissertation research, one of the teachers was like, I question if we should celebrate Thanksgiving anymore because there are so many people who, don't. And I'm like, yeah, we're not changing our culture. Just, come in and assimilate, and you ain't got to participate if you don't want to do it.
Right, exactly. Nobody's forcing you.
And so there is the freedom of religion idea, and there's the idea that we are not supposed to have a state religion. So we have to be mindful of the
Right.
Constitution when we get into that. And what I would say is children who are religious need to have the same freedom to practice as those who aren't or of a different religion. Dr. Nichols, to your point about this assisted suicide, I'm familiar with what's going on in Illinois around that. I am pro-life. And so what that means for me is I don't, abortion has been returned to the states. I can't see myself participating in one. And I've told the young people in my family, never fear that your baby will definitely be accepted. I'd rather have a child, right, than to have you go through that experience of terminating a pregnancy. It's the baby's body, not yours. You just happen to be the mammal, right? The person who can carry
right.
a child.
You're the host.
So the argument is kind of weird to me. But pro-life, it is sick that they called it MAID, MAID. A maid to help you end your life. That's really something. And having children present for these violent, what I would call violent and potentially traumatizing encounters of assisted suicide, shows me that people don't really understand human development and the impact that can have. One, because we know from research that children who see a significant other commit suicide are more likely to commit suicide themselves. It's a way of normalizing. It's a social contagion effect. I would imagine that much like abortion, it would be it's a states' right issue.
State issue.
I do think that there are concerns when we get children involved because of the data, child development, child well-being, and things like that. I can also see how this can be abused by people. And how others can be forced or coerced to participate in it. I can see how a whole fraudulent industrial complex can be built up around terminating people, insurance fraud and the like. So there need to be some guardrails, basically, is what I'll commit to, is looking at the guardrails that we can implement to make sure people aren't coerced into terminating their lives, to make sure children aren't damaged, and also to make sure that this doesn't morph into something where it is calculated that it is more cost efficient to terminate your life than to take care of it.
Yeah, because that's happening in Europe, where they will take people who have Down syndrome or who have other deficiencies. The eugenics movement really on that leaning, and they are convincing people that this is better for you to do. And so to your point, it is that coercion, but it's wrapped in, you would be better off.
Compassion. Yeah, it's wrapped in compassion. And that's the cell, right? So yeah, we have to make sure that we are nurturing life, both in terms of it being carried in the womb and born, but also walking on the face of this earth. So there are a constellation of things that we need to do. Mental health concerns are significant in the community broadly for variety of reasons, but we need to address those things while always having high expectations, but recognizing that many of our citizens are lonely. We are disconnected as a community. We don't know how to. You remember how people used to sit on the porch and then walk across the yard and chat with each other, and the kids used to be directed, even if you're 5 blocks from home. If you start cutting up or something happened, Miss Johnson was gonna handle that business, right? Your grandma,
you gonna get a whooping.
Okay, maybe both of them for real. So we need to get reconnected, and I think the president and leaders, both at the federal, state, and local levels, have a role to play. First of all, in making sure that our communities are safe. There was a time where we could play out in the dark and we was pretty assured that we were going to come home, right? And also just setting a standard where we get reconnected eyeball to eyeball. I think I was looking at something, a meme came across my social media that showed how couples met from like 1952 to present day. And online was 0 for a long time, but now online is how most people meet, and family and college and all of that stuff is least. So there's just so many crises, I think, of identity and connectivity that we have to address. And we all have to be called to action to do it.
Senator Long, DEI. DEI was created to be part of the LGBT group in order for them to get positions like in the schools, like they had the Booty, what's the guy from Indiana, the transportation guy that didn't
Booty.
have a
Booty Judge.
You're talking about South Bend,
Booty
Booty
plug.
Judge.
yeah, but he had no experience
His
for
name
that.
is
know
like
him.
Booty Jed, but I just called him Booty
Pete,
plug.
Mayor Pete.
Yes, Pete. You can call him Pete.
Y'all women tough, boy. But you know, I want you to explain. I want you to explain to see what a lot of Americans don't understand, especially Black Americans. When they created affirmative action did not address the issue. But what affirmative action did was secured that there would only be maybe 1% of Black people who was going to be hired, but they demanded 10% of the workforce to be not Black, but minorities. And so the fact that other minorities like women and Hispanics and everybody else were able to get the positions before Black people, and Black people thought that this was a great program for them, but they found out that it is not at all. So affirmative action was rebranded and added to DEI, division, equity, and inclusion. Talk about that and how you would be able to deal with it, because it has not been conducive for the Black community at all. Talk about how you could make a program like DEI a good program, and if not, what would you do to take care of a DEI?
Yeah, so I think we have to acknowledge that the concept of DEI and affirmative action have been bastardized, co-opted, and taken over, right?
Yes.
So John F. Kennedy's affirmative action was in order to basically tell all federal agencies to take affirmative action to ensure that that people were not discriminated against on the basis of race and economic and educational opportunities. That's where the affirmative action thing came from. And it was particularly geared toward Black Americans because Mexicans who were here at the time were considered white. They're white by treaty, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So they've been white since 1848. They did not experience Jim Crow like we did. And this one that they're coming up with is more like white people fighting against white people about who's really white. So anyway, and then Johnson expanded the civil rights to include everybody. White women advocated to be included because they said they didn't want Negroes to have rights and access that they hadn't been granted. And then, of course, the Hispanics who Johnson had worked with in Texas advocated to be included, which is ironic because they had already been accessing the nation, going to college with white people, in the dorms with white folks, in the military with white folks as well. So they double dipped in a way, right? And so for me, it's about originalism. The original intent of affirmative action, which the Supreme Court justices, the conservative Supreme Court justices, including Clarence Thomas, reaffirmed for legacy Black Americans that we are an injured class because of what happened to us. And we are protected. So I've called colleges and others to have a lineage-based affirmative action in keeping with originalism. The same with diversity, equity, inclusion. We were the original DEIs, right? It was about including us. Of course, there's diversity in the United States of America. There has been, it's just changed in terms of quantity, right? Of course, we want those people included in the proper way. The Constitution should apply to all of us, that kind of thing. And of course, I agree with equity. I think about equity, and this is my definition, in the same way I think about how you have equity in your home. Those who've invested in a thing should get return on investment in that thing. So we want to make sure that the people who help build the nation are prioritized. To me, that's what Americans First is all about. It's delivering the equity for those of us who've built the nation. And of course, we can invite other people in to assist when we need extra workers or whatever, when we want to grow the population, but they need to be coming here not to plant a new flag, their flag in a new place, but in order to actually enfold themselves and assimilate to our nation. So for me, it's all about originalism. The same for the birthright citizenship of the Reconstruction era. Now, you can't convince me that Thaddeus Stevens and the people who bled and died across this nation, right, for civil rights, for and human rights and constitutional rights for American Negroes, intended for someone from Japan to come over here pregnant, pop out a baby, and that baby compete with me and my grandchildren. Like, you can't
No.
we're saying that, right?
That's not what it's for.
Okay. And you can look at their own words where they said, every person born shall be a citizen of the United States. This shall, of course, not include the children of aliens, foreigners, and those of ambassadors. They said. So originalism is the call to action. And what I tell Republicans, if we're going to be about originalism, then we got to be about it all the time. And we got to not kowtow. And so that's what I'm pushing for. What you'll see with my Birthright Citizenship Act of 2027, which is reaffirming the original intent of Birthright Citizenship Act of 2027, is to codify that understanding as an actual bicameral resolution, meaning a law and or a resolution where Congress is affirming that original intent. And that will actually undergird the president's executive order, where he is saying we can't be issuing birth certificates to birth tourists and all of this kind of stuff that confer citizenship to their babies. Right,
because that circumvents actual immigration law that's outlined in the Constitution. And see, people don't realize that it would take a ratification of the Constitution to do what they're doing right now. And it's never been done. They've just circumvented immigration law, period. And everybody here.
And the 14th Amendment, they're using the 14th Amendment in a way that it was not designed.
There's not intended for that.
There's the letter of the law, right? What is written on paper. And then there's the spirit of the law, which is what the people who have done the thing tell you it is intended to do. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, for example, talked about the letter of the law when she was talking about the Voting Rights Act in Alabama, where they were trying to prevent from providing a second Black majority district there.
You talking about Tangeli? Tangeli that don't know what a woman is? She's not a woman.
You know what? Yeah. So
they know what a woman is when it comes to the SAVE Act. Come on now, but Bob can't show up as Susan. Okay, Bob can't show up as Susan and vote. Bob needs to be Bob if he wants to vote. So those people, those individuals have a bad problem. And I mean, it's so convoluted how they're just using everybody with the SAVE Act. But
guys, I want to play a quick video about the tariffs, and we want to talk about that. So let me put this up here.
New confusion for businesses and governments around the world over U.S. tariffs. President Trump has announced a new 15% import tax for all countries after the Supreme Court ruled that most of his tariffs were illegal. Nancy Cordes has more reaction from the president.
They're wrong on it. It's a ridiculous decision.
A rare rebuke from the Supreme Court did not stop President Trump, who is now plowing ahead with new tariffs at what he claims will be a fully allowed and legally tested 15% level worldwide.
The policy hasn't changed, just the tools have changed.
On Face the Nation, Trump's top trade official, Jamieson Greer, insisted the trade deals Trump has already cut with dozens of countries aren't going anywhere.
We expect to stand by them. We expect our partners to stand by them. And I haven't heard anyone yet come to me and say the deal's off.
The conservative-leaning court, in a 6-3 decision, said Trump's sweeping tariffs, a centerpiece of his economic strategy, lacked clear congressional authorization. Now, the White House is trying a new tack, invoking a little-known section of the 1974 Trade Act, which allows for tariffs up to 15%, but only for 150 days and only in certain situations. New York Republican Mike Lawler said it's a short-term fix at best.
I think it's going to be incumbent on the administration to sit down with Congress to determine the best path.
On Friday, Trump called conservative justices Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, both of whom he nominated, embarrassments to their families. And he suggested, without proof, that they had somehow been corrupted by foreign interests.
They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution.
There's still a lot of confusion.
Okay.
You can attribute that to that man on your left. His name is Lutnick, and his sons actually benefited from the failure of the tariffs that just went through. They just made billions of dollars. So you need to look at your people in your administration that basically set you up, sir. Like, this is where we're at we're still
Well,
dealing with swamp creatures.
well, the fact of the matter is that it wasn't a issue of the tariffs themselves, but it was the procedure that it was administered to the court. So that's not really a major thing to deal with. Dr. Long, your thoughts on this, and how would you handle this as a U.S. senator?
Yeah, so as I understand the powers when it comes to implementing tariffs, that they are authorized by Congress specifically. I will have to look at the trade agreement details and how this 15%, like the causes of action related to that, if that can be done by the president and he has to get authorization within a certain amount of time, or if this 1974 Trade Act allows the president to unilaterally impose tariffs for this temporary period of time. Because, you know, when he, for example, some of the laws require pre-authorization by Congress, and some of them allow the president to take executive action, right, for a period of time. So I have to look at both. I do appreciate what the president is trying to do, and I think I have advised folks connected to the administration to do a better job of public relations and communicating with American people what the goal is with the action that they're taking. What I see is he is trying to make sure, first of all, that there's fairness in our trade, because we have given a lot of jobs away to other places with these various trade agreements. And there's also the idea that as we are reshoring jobs to the United States to produce more of what we consume, we're also wanting people to decrease their reliance upon foreign source goods, right? So people have to understand that these aren't just arbitrary decisions, that they are part of a constellation of efforts that have to happen in order for us to redesign how our economy works. And I'd love the administration to paint that picture better. And I don't know who makes those decisions from a public relations perspective, but I hope they get on that, because we're resilient people, right? Like we survived through the Depression, right? You ration, you figure it out. We're not even close to rationing level, right? Most of us got more clothes than we even need, all the things. So, but he needs to paint the picture. It's going to take a while to remake this sausage, and it's going to hurt and look messy before it gets better. And I think the American people can handle that.
Lucretia?
I think okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Doc.
Oh, I was going to say with some of the tariffs, what has been brought up is the fact that Congress gave some of their power away to the president during that time. So that might be something you want to look for when you're researching. I'm just saying, and this is kind of the pitfall that he walked into in advisement, and Lutnick is responsible for that, and I'm telling you, they benefited off of it, made billions of dollars off of it. And so these are things that still need to be looked at. To your point, the administration has had some trouble with really effectively communicating what they really want to do for the American people, because it always gets trounced upon.
And if Trump's doing it, people get triggered no matter what.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
I never understood why we paid more to export our stuff, and we basically don't put anything else on foreign trade into our own nation, and why we are always the pocketbook for the rest of the world. I never understood any of that. So when Trump came in and said, you know what, tariffs on you pay your fair share. We're sick of giving you all these incentives, and American citizens are the one that's footing the bill. I appreciate it. I was waiting on a 1776 check. But when it comes to Lutnick, the reason why Trump need to get rid of him after what had came out of the Epstein files, and the list, and how he would emails, he should have been let go last week. But that's just me.
Oh no, that too.
Yeah, the Epstein situation has been really enlightening about people in power, how they seem to operate with impunity. They don't think they're going to get caught because they're all in it together, right? So who's going to? Because if I tell on you, then I'm implicating me, right? So it's this mutually assured destruction kind of stuff that's going on. That has to be addressed. And I frankly do appreciate the folks who were persistent in making sure that those files get released. Because if you are out here trafficking and abusing boys, women, girls, all of it, you need to be addressed, and you don't deserve. I'm sorry. I question your ability to, I question your right and legitimacy to have that kind of level of authority.
And they're also deleting the files. So I haven't looked at it yet, but I need to look at the law to see if there is actually any repercussions or consequences of the files being deleted online. So far, they've deleted over 500,000 files that
Well,
were initially put online.
well, you know what, guys? It's so much of, and I talk about this on other shows. This is also a spiritual war because there were 3 former presidents who got together during the height of Joe Biden's opening the borders and allowing for the immigrants to come in here and try to take this country over. Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and George Bush
Yep.
hired a private plane
Yep.
company which allowed illegal children separated from their parents. 385,000 children were brought over from countries with what those presidents did, and they disappeared. Now we have to really understand and look at the picture in the totality. Epstein probably ain't dead, okay? He probably
Allegedly,
ain't
we
dead.
need to throw that in there. We don't want to get a lawsuit.
Okay. Allegedly, well, you know, we'll send some dogs to find him.
Right. Massive air
You're
quotes.
talking about Pizzagate that went down.
Mhm.
Oprah Winfrey is part of this. The Clintons are part of it. I mean, the name goes
Allegedly.
on for those politicians who lied and who went after Trump and says, oh, Trump got to be the main character. And yet they're the main characters. I mean, what is going to happen? What they're going to do? That's my thing. You made a lot of noise about it, and everybody see now that most of the Democrats and Republicans that was on this list that participated in this type of activity, what's going to be and what's going to happen to make things right.
I know.
Go ahead, Lucretia.
What we're going to do is do just like Scotland Yard is doing, because Scotland Yard, the Interpol, and all these different nations that are starting arrest, starting prosecution and everything else, it's going to make the American government look bad. And Pam Bundy, either she's going to get up off her patookies and she's going to start doing something that is substance, or they're going to let them all escape. But wait a minute, allegedly. We're waiting on Bill Clinton and also Hillary, and they should be testifying on the 26th and the 27th. So I'm gonna be all up in their grills. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm gonna be nosy.
Yeah.
Dr.
And
Long.
Pam actually needs to step down respectfully.
Yes.
Who that?
Respectfully.
Pam Bundy.
And the assistant attorney general, because this was something that should have been handled. You had the files, you got the alleged destroyed files as well from the Southern District of New York. So you had everything. There's a lot of people that need to just step down. Like, don't get fired, step down respectfully and let somebody handle this. You know what I'm saying? Just pass the baton respectfully so we can carry on about the business of the people.
Dr. Long?
So I think there are a couple things going on in terms of what's going to happen. There need to be investigations. Jeffrey Epstein was very wealthy and very well connected. So you can expect that he would hobnob with very wealthy people. So everyone connected to him is not necessarily a pedophile or a human trafficker. So that investigations need to happen, but we can't do that if there's redactions and people are being prevented from actually doing it.
Like Disney, like him being a Disney adult after 2009, mind you.
Yeah, and so people, so there's some judgment issues for people who stayed in connection with him after what happened and his nights in jail and his days out doing whatever in Florida. I think that, and every person who is connected to that, and everyone who's found to have participated in some way in that trafficking and abuse of men, women, children, girls and boys, needs to be held accountable regardless of who they are. And then I am of the mindset actually that Pam Bondi had come out and made public statements about the files being on her desk and how she planned to release them. And other people before they got nominated had also made those claims, right? And so I think there are ways that their hands have been tied related to the files. And I think her performance during her testimony was intentional. I think she did that so that the people would demand release of the files
Mm-hmm.
after that. I just don't see her being, I don't know this woman. Like, I've never met her.
I do. She was a co-counsel in support of Pfizer. She is not a friendly to the American people. She has botched things that she should have not botched. There should be people in prison right now just in violation Title 8, Section 1324 on its face. There should be 6 governors in jail right now, along with the mayors that are supporting these sanctuary cities, period.
Yeah.
There should have been depositions and grand jury testimony done to date. It's been over a year.
But is she operating? So here's the thing. So part of the new paradigm, let's talk about it, is that people who are in the executive branch are not independent thinkers, that they have to comport with what the administration wants to do. And I do know the president, from what I understand, the president had expressed concern that releasing these files without knowing people's culpability could make folks assume that everyone who flew with Epstein on his private jet or whatever was a pedophile. And that's a valid concern, right? So guilt by association. So I wonder the extent to which Pam and all of the others actually have the ability to operate completely independently, or if they also have to get approval for their conduct, because that was part of what Project 2025 was to do.
But they signed the law. See, everything that was said ended when they decided to make a law to release all of the files.
Totally agree.
And so when they did those redactions, they did them independently. And that's why I said I have to really read through the law and see where if they were out of line with it and what the consequences are for deleting the files, because the files haven't even been out a full 30 to 45 days yet. And they're now deleting files.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there were enforcement actions available or included within the law, but yes, it was supposed to be fully released. And even if, so here's my thought, even you have a sworn duty to the American people first and foremost in the Constitution, right?
Come on.
And so no matter what, you are supposed to be honoring that duty. And if you don't have that level of commitment to the core essence of what your job is, then you don't deserve the role and you should resign. I've never seen Pam Bondi perform. I thought her showing in front of Congress was abysmally disrespectful. I assessed it as her creating such a ruckus that the people demanded that the files be fully released, because I've never seen her behave that way. So maybe that's how she gets down when she's under pressure. I don't know. But what I do know is after her conduct in front of Congress, it was absolutely necessary that all the files be released. Now, I know with the deletion of them, we'll see. I know that the people who are demanding accountability there and transparency there are not going to give up. And I think the more they resist, the more people, the less tolerant people will be about their resistance.
Yeah.
You know, for me, guys, I think it's a distraction. I think it's a distraction for the simple fact is we got all this corruption going on in the blue states like Minnesota, Ilya Omar, Tim Walz. You got Brandon Johnson they should be locked up already. J.B. Pritzker. All of these politicians who have violated federal laws should be locked up. That's what Pam Bondi should be focusing on. All of this illegal stuff that is already in our face that she should be doing. The Epstein files mean nothing, and it means nothing to the American people if there's no follow-up actions and people aren't being arrested for what they did. Because it's not going to make any sense.
This is what I tell people. It's no longer a distraction because God made us to multitask. It's only a distraction to low educated, low IQ people. The Epstein file, I've been following that for the last 5 years. So everybody on my show still talking about it while we're picking other topics and focusing on everything else. Yes. So if you're a female, you can't get distracted. We cook the bacon, we go make the bacon, we take care of the kids, and we do everything else. This is not a distraction.
Look, we make the eggs last so they're not cold.
Thank you.
Look, come on.
Trump trying to get them to shut up about it.
But at the end of the day, if nothing happens, okay, so all these terrible people have done all these things.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if they are not prosecuted or put in prison for what they've done.
So you feel it's a performance? You feel?
I feel
like
if
it
these
is.
people, I feel like this. If these people were there and they committed these crimes with these children, they need to be locked up. That's what needs to happen.
Our
That's
job
the
to
bottom
put
line.
pressure. It's our job to put pressure on our Congress to bring these people forth, right? Because the people that haven't gone forth are the people who actually committed the crimes, and they know who they are in these files. Even that they're redacted to us, they know who they are, and they can bring them, and they can actually petition for the FBI to investigate them, and they can petition for these things to go before a grand jury. Okay,
Maybe
so that's what I'm waiting for now.
Yard. Maybe they're waiting on Scotland Yard.
We're not voting for you if you don't bring these people down. You're not going back to office.
Well, with Stammer,
so
the prime minister,
it can happen.
Of
you break it up, look.
At the UK is in trouble. He's getting ready to get.
Oh, I want to hear what she's saying. Is it?
Me too. Yeah.
They have
Lucretia,
already
you're breaking up. Lucretia, can you hear me?
Okay, there we are. Okay, Stammer, who is the prime minister of UK. Yeah,
There
I'm
you
still
go.
here if you can hear me. He's getting ready to get arrested. He gave insider trading inside of from the UK and America. He gave it to Epstein. So he's in trouble already. The prince or the former prince. Ain't nobody skating. So I think it took someone like a Scotland Yard and Interpol to actually be the first one to start arresting these people. And now we got these two big fish. These ain't no small fries. The ex-prince is not a small fry. Stammer, the prime minister of the UK, is not a small fry. So if we have to, it takes another outside country. Actually, these people, you're going to start seeing it in the United States too, especially with Bill and Hillary Clinton. I'm waiting on them next week.
Well, you know what?
But we have to threaten. I'm sorry, we have not threatened, but we have to tell members of Congress we are not sending you back to office unless you do your job. And you've got a chance to do your job. The midterms are coming up. We do not see arrest. If we do not see people coming before Congress and going to prison, you're not going back.
Well, you know that.
I mean, it has to be that level of you can't be put back in office and let this stuff keep going on. It just can't happen.
That's the whole thing that I'm concerned about because, you know, we come out with all of this corruption. We come out with all this whole pedophilia thing, and ain't nobody went to jail yet. And we know that it's in high places. We know Barack Obama was there. We know Hillary Clinton and so many others were there who participated. Now, you know, Trump was there as well, but he was acting as an informant to the FBI. People don't know that. And so he reported it. But those who are now sitting back, relaxing, like the Obamas, Big Mike, and all the others who have all the others who have participated in this type of action with children, my thought is there needs to be arrest. They need to be taken down. Whatever they did and participated in this, they need to be held accountable for it because there are standards and moral ethics that being a political leader that you have to abide by. And so many of those have been violated today, guys. I'm going to play this one clip. God is great. It's great, Doc. We got to come back. We're going to make sure that we have you back on here because you're so well versed. And I love the knowledge that you're putting out there to our people. It's something that much needed because people don't hear it from the grassroots level like we bring it. You know, people, a lot of the podcasts is not as knowledgeable as we are, as our panel, and they don't ask the right questions. We're going to ask you the right. I guess you already know that.
Yes, I love it. This is the nuance. This is the sophistication of conversation that we need to be having across the nation. First of all, you're bringing. So I appreciate it.
So I want to get your thoughts on this. Over the weekend, there was a man who was at Mar-a-Lago. Now, he had a shotgun and some gasoline. Now, I did a little research on this guy, and it found out that he went missing for a couple of days. And the people, anyway, let me play this clip and we'll talk about it.
We're on top of more breaking news this evening. A Moore County man was shot and killed by the Secret Service and a Palm Beach County deputy at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago overnight. Trump was not at the resort when this happened. Investigators identified the suspect as 21-year-old Austin Martin. The Moore County Sheriff's Office says Martin was reported missing by a family member at 1:38 a.m. At around the same time, Martin was shot and killed by those Secret Service agents and the deputy. Investigators say that Martin was carrying a shotgun and a gas can when he entered the secured perimeter at Mar-a-Lago. That's when he was approached by those law enforcement agents.
He was ordered to drop those two pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the two Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat.
The Secret Service agents and the deputy involved in the shooting are currently on administrative leave pending an investigation. While the FBI is looking into things down in Florida, there is also a search underway at a home in Moore County. This video right here from Drone 5 shows a number of cars outside of an address that's linked to Martin. WR's Kirsten Clark was in Moore County all day and shares what she was able to learn.
Authorities say Austin Martin lived in a home here on Swinehart Lane, a private road in Cameron. It has become the center of attention in this tight-knit community as the FBI investigates Martin's background. Drone footage captured from overhead the remote and heavily wooded property where Martin lived. You can see several cars parked outside of what looks to be a large shed with the house a few yards behind. Cindy and Danny Carlisle, who live across from Swinehart Lane, were in shock to learn that their neighbor was the suspect killed at Mar-a-Lago.
It's just like a nightmare. We just, things like this don't happen close to home.
Officials with the Moore County Sheriff's Office say Martin was reported missing by family members. The Carlisles say a friend told them they saw his mother report Austin's disappearance at a store the night before.
She had no idea where he was. And so, like I said, she was very upset, and she just made the comment that she had gotten a text from him, saying that I'm okay, I love you.
This flyer was widely shared online, displaying a picture of the 21-year-old with a description of his car and height. It notes that he was last heard from on February 21st, just before 8 p.m. According to an AP report, Martin was described by family as quiet and even afraid of guns. Martin's cousin, Braden Fields, reacted to the news with disbelief, saying, "I wouldn't believe he would do something like this. It's mind-blowing. He wouldn't even hurt an ant. He doesn't even know how to use a gun." He said Martin worked at a local golf course and would send money from each paycheck to charity. "We are big Trump supporters, all of us, everybody," Fields added. Martin's actions a mystery for many as the search for a motive continues. We're still working to learn as much as we can about who Martin was and what led him to go to Mar-a-Lago armed with a gun and a gas can. We'll be sure to bring you more information as soon as we have it. In Moore County, Kirsten Clark, WRAL News.
Okay, Doc, I'm gonna let you start first. I know you're ready. Go ahead, Doc.
No, I was going to say it's very interesting. He looks very similar to the other shooters that had attempted to unalive President Donald Trump, and I guarantee you he's going to be on some type of medication. He might end up being a pony bro. He's going to be somebody who's just not, he doesn't look the part of it, but he's getting the blame for it. And the fact that there's no footage of him, but there's footage of the gun and the gas can, but there's no footage of him. That doesn't make sense. I can't. There's cameras everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Mar-a-Lago is like Fort Knox. Why aren't there pictures of the vehicle? Why aren't there pictures of somebody walking up, even if it's grainy, from front, behind, side? There's all kinds of lighting. It makes no sense. It just really it says to me psyop. I'm sorry. It says psyop to me. Until I have more proof that young man was actually there, this is all a psyop.
Your thoughts, Dr. Long?
I mean, my first question is generally if something like this is authentic. I think we've had many such patsies, and the question becomes who is doing it and why, and what's their ultimate goal. It's intriguing that the family provided this notably contrary portrait of him compared to the idea that he was holding the gas can, set the gas can down, and raised his gun. I mean, it's possible, even if he didn't know how to use a gun, that someone would do something like that. What's the motivation? I think I'll avoid speculation until more information is shared about his social network. I'm sure they're going to release info about his devices, what he's posted in social media profiles and on these, online networks where all these shooters seem to be congregating together and getting radicalized, allegedly. So yeah, I'm gonna reserve a stated opinion and say I need to know more.
Your thoughts, Lucretia?
He won't do it again. He won't do it again. What do you want me to say? He probably is a part of a Discord group. He probably a part of a Signal group. And I hope the parents don't blame themselves. After the age of 12, stop trying to wonder. That dude was 21 years old. He knew right from wrong. You should not be anywhere near Mar-a-Lago with a gas can or a shotgun, knowing everything is going to happen and what would happen. So I don't blame the cops. I don't blame Secret Service. Dude, you should not have been there. You shouldn't have had a shotgun and you shouldn't have had a gas can. You are a straight threat, and they neutralized that threat. Only people that I feel sorry for and I feel bad for is the parents. Now they're going to try to blame themselves because a 21-year-old man didn't know right from wrong.
Well, and they're going to have the whole 2A conversation again, so be prepared, Lucretia.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what's next.
You know what I think is because looking at it through a spiritual lens, anytime that something happens and it get close to people being exposed, like Hillary Clinton, like a Barack Obama, like a Oprah Winfrey, it seems like somebody makes the sacrifice. Like Alice Purdy in Minnesota. They continue to close in on the corruption. And just as soon as they get close, you have an Alex Purdy. He's out there. He ended up getting killed. The other lady, Denise. All of these to me, and even this young man, when the parents said he was missing, all of this to me seems to be of some type of evil cult or something that I put on these people to make them act out of character because they're doing things that just doesn't add up with the norm of who they are. Like Alex Purdy, Daddy said that he wasn't himself. He went out there. As a matter of fact, he told him, don't go out there and do something stupid. So these people are acting out of character. And the only thing that I could think of is it's the evil that they've come in contact with and the mindset that have changed with these cults or whatever that they're meeting. But I think that these are some spiritual sacrifices in here that is being done by those who are practicing sadism to throw off the American people. And at the same time, they want Donald Trump dead because Donald Trump is rolling back the things that they thought that they were able to continue. See, when Barack Obama laid the groundwork for the sodomites, because that's what this is. This battle is from Sodom and Gomorrah. When he laid the groundwork for this attack on us, then they have all these little subsets. And I think what's happening to the American people now, they're activating these people that have become part of this cult, and they're doing these things when they say, because every time we get close, like we're getting close to the Clintons to come out and pop them off, now we got this. Your thoughts, guys, and we're going to get out of here.
I think that there are a lot of things that happen to maintain power and to quiet those who oppose the underhanded things, and nothing would surprise me. Literally nothing would surprise me at this point, right? Everybody should rewatch The Manchurian Candidate. The one thing that I will say is, again, my name is Dr. Pamela Denise Long. I'm running for Illinois United States Senator. I have so enjoyed this rich conversation. Dr. Nichols, you know I love you and appreciate all that you have done. Lucretia, you know what? It has been a pleasure with all of your support, and I continue to look forward to working together. Pastor Lowry, thank you for opening up your show, your platform, your panel, your friends to me and my run. The election day is March 17th. It's St. Patrick's Day. It's 3 weeks away, essentially. I am asking every Illinoisan to go out and pull the Republican primary ballot. I'm looking to protect family land and home equity from predatory practices as well as misconduct during civil proceedings. Americans are losing wealth faster than they can accumulate it through their properties being taken through tax sales. Chicago just got in trouble with that. And that's happening around the nation. So I'm going to introduce those two bills within 90 days. I'm going to introduce the Valor Launch Act, which is designed to make sure that veterans transition from enlisted to home is smooth and they keep their skills that they acquire, the leadership that they acquire during the military transitions in a commensurate level in the civilian life, extending that transition period for them. The Birthright Citizenship Act, leaning back into originalism and implementing or proposing my lineage-based investment so that we can correct the misappropriation of minority spending and make sure it goes to the people, the Americans that it's supposed to go to, and much, much more. I'm looking to solve problems. I'm not looking to be 80 years old, y'all limping around Washington, D.C. on Alzheimer's medication, right? I want to make sure there's a pipeline of talent, diverse group of people, leaders, future leaders who are looking to step in and shepherd this nation into its next level of a constitutional republic. So pull the Republican primary ballot. You can vote early. You can vote by mail if you practice that, but you have to request the Republican primary ballot, and you have to do it on or before the close of polls on St. Patrick's Day. And you can find me online, Long for Senate 2026, on Facebook, on TikTok, on X, and www.longforsenate2026.com, LONGFOR Senate 2026.com. Thank you guys so much.
Lucretia, your last words.
This is it. Politicians cannot continue to say harass them, attack them, and get in their face, fight fire with fire. When they go low, we kick them. Well, we jump back up with AKs. We're not playing with you no more. You know what? Democrats need to temper that spirit before they rile up this whole United States and actually create that civil war that they want. So at this point, I am waiting to see the whites of their eyes. Sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt me. But if you come anywhere near me, and that goes with, what Newsom Gruesome said about Black people yesterday in his SAT scores, the down talking on our community, and they sit there and they accept it, and they continue to live in that community. I'm glad that they already took my card. I don't want the card anymore. I want the red, white, and blue.
Doc Nichols.
Wow. Well, it's been great being a part of this discussion, especially with you, Pamela Denise Long and Lucretia and Pastor Lowry. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Pamela, because you could have been anywhere, but you decided to be here with us and really sharing with the American people. And you guys, Long for Senate 2026.
Yes, ma'am.
Go to her website, support, donate, okay, because campaigns cost money and she needs all the support that she can get. And always remember, if you do want to run, you don't want to run as a Democrat or a Republican, you can check out USA Redemption Party at usaredemptionparty.com.
Doc Long, I'll be calling you after this show, and I want to discuss some things with you. Maybe you need your own show. You need a platform that you can speak from all the time. And I think that you would work good with us, and then we can rally around you for this Senate piece. God is always in control, and I know that he places people at certain times to do certain things, like all of us who have the same mindset about how we love our family, we love this country, and how we're able to implement things. So I think that being part of this group, you'll have that type of platform that we can put things out there and support you. And all of us have offices that we're running for. Like I said, I'm going to be the mayor of Chicago in 2027. We got Lucretia down there with the NRA. We got Doc doing her thing with Redemption Party. Now we have you part of this family that we can assist you, and you're going to get that office. I'll call you and we'll talk about it. But yeah, welcome aboard, and we'll talk after the show. Guys, I'll see you later. Thank you so much for coming in. And remember, let's keep it going that we can fix our country.
Let's get it.
Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the show. It's always good to be able to look at people who actually care about this country and care about the American people. These are my last words. To the people in the state of Illinois, what you saw was a very intelligent doctor. She's down to earth. She is somebody who we need. That's an example of a common sense person that's educated and knows what it's going to take to get this country back on track. These are my last words. To the American people and patriots across this country, no longer can we wait on those who say that they're going to do things, who are sitting in places to do things but not do nothing. No longer can we continue to watch how they change laws to fit themselves. I'm talking about these corrupt politicians. They change laws to fit themselves, how they have the syndrome for us to hate somebody who is doing good work like President Trump. So it is our responsibility as the American people and patriots across this country to make good decisions on who we elect and who we allow to get into our space and in our country. So what I'm saying to the American people and patriots across this country, that we stand together. Let's take a look at these candidates like Dr. Long, who bring a wealth of knowledge and common sense so that we can stand together as one America to make this country great again. I want to say that God bless you, and I look forward to you guys going out to vote for Dr. Denise Long so that we can make this country great again. God bless you, and peace.